Memories. They basically make the foundations of what you are. Without them, you almost become a blank slate. Someone could easily tell you left is right and right is left, and you would believe them since you have nothing else to base that information off of. And in terms of writing, not remembering who you are is the classic amnesia trope. When a character doesn't remember a single thing about themselves or anyone else. It's a classic writing trope used in a multitude of media to either create a new story dynamic, new character arcs, character introspectives, or in some cases, a way to put a pause on the plot to focus on how to get the character's memory back. But when it's used as a plot device, it's either self-inflicted or part of a villain's plan. Well, I guess the third is always an accident, but that's mainly used in like a comedic type of storytelling. And the two subjects I have picked for this video are Sento Kiryu from kamenrider Build and limbuscompany's very own Don Quixote. And spoilers ahead, like major plot spoilers. So this is the only warning I'm ever gonna give. The rest of it is just gonna be heavy spoilers after heavy spoilers. Don Quixote is one of the 12 sinners who is under the manager of Dante, the manager of the LCB, limbuscompany Bus. And throughout the different cantos, we follow a sinner that the canto focuses on, seeing how they react, respond, and even grow as a character. And throughout Cantos 1 and 6, Don can be best explained by an ADHD gremlin who likes to talk about fixes, peace, and justice. Having multiple instances of where how ideals of justice becomes more of a hindrance than it is helpful. For example, in Canto 4, where she stops a family from being separated, which is good, but in doing so causes the LCB sinners to come into conflict with the K-Corp border control. TLDR, for those who don't know anything of Project Moon, Dawn picked a fight with the United States of Healthcare. And throughout the cantos, we basically see Dawn as a happy, energetic woman, ready to stand for justice. Sure, she has to be wrangled back in to be kept in check, with Ishmael even saying it's like talking to a brick wall, which to be honest, she does have a point. But Dawn has a very strong sense of identity with who she is as a person. She is openly herself. It's not until Murder on the Warp Train and Canto 7 where we get major Dawn development, starting off with Murder on the Warp Train. Its purpose was two things. It was to introduce us, or I guess reintroduce us, to blood fiends. For those that don't know, they're basically vampires. The second purpose was to rip the illusion from Dawn, showing us that she is the second kindred. Now, what does that mean? To keep it short, the first blood fiends are typically the strongest. They are known as the first kindred. A blood fiend can make 2 more blood fiends, and they are known as the second kindred. The second kindred can make 2 more, known as the third. Rinse and repeat. The way Dawn is perceived, the way she talks, it's very different from the Dawn we know. She literally erases the main antagonist of the Intervallo, who, mind you, is the 6th kindred. This insane lore drop makes us the player, but more importantly Dante, view Dawn in a different light. Dawn went from coughing baby to nuclear bomb. She is the coughing nuke. And with this version of Dawn, she looks at us and she simply asks Dante to put her shoes back on. And afterwards, she passes out. And when she wakes back up, she's back to her old self. There's not a single thought in her head, almost as if it was just the wind. And during the events of Canto 7, you can't help but wonder, when will it happen? When will she return back to her old self? When will she get her memories back? The entire canto is building up to this moment. Then the Blue Man arrives and puts on an entire play where she is the main character, doing heroic deeds. And all the while she thinks this is about Hong Lu. Dawn, for fuck's sake, please lock the fuck in. Oh fuck, she locked in too much, I'm so sorry. She gets her original memories back. Memories of the White Moon and her stories, but more importantly, memories of Papa Don Quixote. Yep, the sinner we know and love, Don, isn't Don, but is Sancho. But for the sake of the video, I'm going to call this man Papa Don, and this is just going to be regular Don. This basically reverting her back into Sancho, leaving nothing of the Don we know behind. The personality basically doing a 180. She acts more calm, cold, and indifferent. And when she talks to Papa Don and seeing him for the first time in over 200 years, Papa Don looks at her and sees she hasn't changed a bit. The Don 200 years ago is the same Don he sees now. And the next thing she does after seeing Papa Don is pointing her lance at us. And a fight begins. It's not until Sinclair and the rest of the sinners start talking to her and telling her her dream isn't dead, making her realize that she does value the journey she went on with them. She does want to continue her dream. And I know I skipped over a lot of details, Like if we're talking about how many things I skipped, I skipped like almost everything. Like we're going brain dead bare basics with this explanation here. But I want to keep this main theme of the video, which is memories. So why did Dawn wipe her memories in the first place? Well, first things first, trauma. Second reason, Papa's Dawn plan to see if a blood fiend can change. And Papa Don's plan can be seen in a few different ways, so I'll explain it as brain dead as possible, removing a lot of the details out of it. Like, we are talking as brain dead as possible. Blood fiends have an innate desire for blood. It's not like water, in which humans need it to survive, but more along the lines of it's ingrained into their DNA and tells them to consume it. Limbuscompany was on fire at the time, blood fiends were going crazy. Papa Don sends out Dawn to experience the world to live out his dream of blood fiends living with humans. There we go. Bare basic information. If anyone wants to fully explain it, you are free to do so in the comments. I also wanted to note her time at Limbuscompany before it was crumbling. She never had the desire of blood like the rest of the kindreds, all because, well, Papa Don told her that blood fiends don't need blood, and because she shared the same dream with him. Dawn, without any memories or even knowing where she was taken to a lighthouse, and then locked and sealed away, where she read about fixers who are heroes of justice and wrote letters to them. And this went on for a long time. By the time she joins limbuscompany, she's the Dawn we met all the way at the beginning of the video. Her memory wipe was ultimately her decision in the end to see if she could change. Without the old memories crowding up the current ones, she would be able to gain a new perspective on life. Let me give you an example. Kamen Rider Geats is not my favorite series, but if it was my first introduction to the Kamen Rider series as a whole, my perspective on it would probably change, since I have nothing to compare it to. Dawn is given a fresh start to experience the world again, and when the time comes to revisit her past, we would see how she would react with those new memories reflecting on the old ones. She did falter for a moment, resulting us to fight her, but ultimately, she herself decided that her dream should not end prematurely, that the new memories she has, the journey she went on, was worth it. That even though she remembers who she is now and how her father ended up, she will continue this dream and its journey until it meets its end. Wiping her memory did change Dawn, even if both Dawns at the time thought it didn't. She may act the same in the following cantos, but there's a subtle tone shift, and with how she's viewed. She still talks about fixes and justice, but unlike the Dawn of the past, you can have a conversation with her, and you could see that she can understand the situation much better than her previous self. In her battle announcer lines, she even acknowledges how ridiculous her persona is at times. Sancho is the default, while Dawn is the persona. You could see this in an observation log of the 400 Roses, where she talks normally, up until she realizes she is being recorded. It seems that Dawn is embarrassed to be seen as Sancho, the Dawn we have now, holding both memories of Sancho, while embracing the life she loves. I think a perfect example of how we view Dawn is the April Fool's event of 2026. Where all the sinners are these little guys and gals. Ah, look at them, they're so adorable. With little Dawn being cute, screaming, giving us the image of someone who is harmless until this moment right here.
이런, 피도 입가에 이렇게 묻히고. 뭐라?
매번 건드리지 말도록. 오래간만에 만찬이니.
Breaking the immersion just for a moment, but after this illusion is broken, she tries to go back to her old self. And Dante calls her out. She can't go back acting like nothing even happened, with her final lines being, showing us that things can truly never return to how they once were. And in the LCE checkup intervallo, see Dawn as a blood fiend again as she takes off her shoes. Wait, I just realized I never talked about Roshanante. Okay, to keep this short, blood horse that suppresses Dawn's desire to drink blood. They took off her shoes to power scale her, and she lost herself due to the collective buildup of the desire of blood of all the kindreds that were basically trapped in La Mancha land. Virgilius steps in to stop her himself. The sinners seeing this as a last case scenario, like Dante's self-destruct button. And while in Ryo's shoes, there was really one moment that it could have been used, if it wasn't for the color teal. But I guess we'll have to wait until Canto 10 to see more of Dawn and how the sinners react to her. Kiryu Sento. Kamen Rider build. For those that don't know about anything about Kamen Rider, Power Rangers came from Super Sentai. Super Sentai is part of Tokusatsu, and Kamen Rider is part of that genre as well. So is Godzilla and Ultraman, by the way. Each series of Kamen Rider focusing on a different main character in their own separate timeline. At the very beginning of build, Sento does not have any memory of himself. When he woke up, he saw the simple cafe shop owner hovering above him to see if he was okay. And throughout the story, we're hinted how his story may be important. After all, how could you become a genius scientist if you have no memory of anything? And as it goes on, we get more hints about his past. And then this happens, where this guy tells Sento he was part of an indie rock band, his real name being Sato Taro, Sento being the name Isurigi gave him. Well, damn, mystery solved, I guess. Sento was a bum before he lost his memories. Well, I guess add him into group with the homeless or jobless riders now. But I don't know if there's more of them. I feel like there should be more jobless or homeless riders here. I haven't watched a lot of series, so let me know who else should be added into this bum category. But that still doesn't explain how a random guitarist became a scientist. And why does this all matter? And that's because of these two people right here. So, we're told that in episode 1, this guy Banjo murdered Katsuragi. And we find out this man is also known as the devil scientist who created the evil organization Faust. They're both drivers, and he's basically going to haunt the narrative for the rest of this series. So it's a good thing he got murdered? No, it's not a good thing he got murdered, because Katsuragi being the devil scientist isn't really well known by the public at all. Faust is also an organization being controlled by someone within the government. And supposedly, he murdered Katsuragi on September 5th, the same day Sento lost all of his memories. At the same time though, Sato was going to get a job testing new drugs. Why is this important? Because Sato was there 1 hour before the murder of Katsuragi, meaning he could have been the murderer. But here's the thing, we find out that this man, Bloodstock, can change the faces of people, meaning for all we know, Katsuragi could still be alive. But I'm just gonna explain the full details of events. If you didn't listen to my spoiler warning, this is my last spoiler warning. Katsuragi talks to Bloodstock about leaving Faust, and Bloodstock knocks him out. Satoru arrives, is killed, and Bloodstock does a face swap. Banjo arrives, and then the police show up to arrest it. You got it? Good. Sento is Katsuragi, which means in terms of the narrative, is actually insane. Because we have to ask, why did he lose his memories? Why did Bloodstock let him live? And then it's revealed it was all part of Bloodstock's plan. Yeah, losing your whole memory, building up Sento in power, ingraining Sento with ideas of justice and peace. All part of his master plan. Sento not having his memory is one layer on top of 2 other layers between how important him not remembering anything is important to the narrative. Also, rest in peace, Sato. Sento was the devil scientist. He's the one who's been haunting his own narrative. He's why Faust exists. Why do we have build bottles? Katsuragi. Why is Banjo's girlfriend died? Katsuragi. Of course, this type of knowledge is not good on all good boy Sento. It's eating himself alive, and he is basically guilt-ridden by his past actions. But he's able to use his guilt and pain as resolve to try to right the wrongs he did in the past. But more importantly, he knows that he isn't him, quite literally. Even though they share the same body, it's very clear that they have a different mind. Sort of along the lines of having a completely different personality. All of this making the final arc very interesting, when Sento actually does end up regaining his memories. But it's not a, oh, I remember who I was and I did these bad things, but more along the lines of, I don't know who you are, but I know who I am. We don't have Sento anymore. We have Katsuragi. They both may be geniuses, but Katsuragi is the one who ends up finishing the final upgrade for build. And even though he may have built the upgrade, it doesn't mean he can use it. Let me give you some important context. Banjo could have transformed at the beginning of the series because of 2 things. The first one is his hazard level, which is a number that represents how resistant you are towards nebula gas. And the second reason is his lack of drive wanting to protect others. It has to do with something with like an emotional connection that lets him transform with the bottle or something like that. Again, I can't dive too heavily into this right now, gotta stick to this topic. And Katsuragi doesn't have that innate drive and want to protect others. That's why Bloodstock erased Katsuragi's memories in the first place, having a mode that he could just instill the ideas of justice into and to ensure his growth. That growth being important since it's a key to his plan. Without that sense of justice, Katsuragi can't even use the genius bottle. And thus, Katsuragi views Sento's memories, and the 2 of them actually talking it out, ultimately leading them to combine into one being. Well, mentally speaking, since, you know, this is all happening in his head. Sento's memory loss is the key piece to this entire series. There's multiple through lines to this specific event, and the story never happens if Sento never loses his memories in the first place. Sento's memory wasn't by choice. Sancho's was, both resulting them to live completely different lives compared to their original self, both acknowledging their past and confronting it and continue to moving forward. But you may argue when the two had their past erased from them, they were brought up with the ideals of peace and justice, and to protect the weak and innocent, that they were molded into what they are today. And that may be true to an extent, but they actively chose to continue to walk on this path, one confronted by their own past. To be honest, I mainly made this video to talk about two of my favorite characters from their respective series. Whenever Amnesia is used, it's often a way to slow down the plot, the episode mainly focusing on how to get it back. If used for long-term storytelling, it could be very frustrating. Katsuragi did horrible things, and Sento has to live with that for the rest of his life. Dawn can't ever be seen as the same, and she can't ignore that it never happened. And that's the end of the video. Once again, like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed this. Hopefully my yapping entertained y'all. And also hit that hype feature.